Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Hideo Kojima has made an interview with a website from Italy. It's called TGCom24. I'm just going to leave the link in the description down below, in which he discussed his opinion about the mixed reviews that Death Stranding has got. He also discussed what his projects are going to be like, what he thinks he wants to do, and what he actually loves to do. And he also speaks about the message behind Death Stranding. From what I have noticed, most of those big media websites have focused on this part here, in which Kojima talks about why the game has received such mixed reviews. And obviously they didn't care much about what he makes of the game or why he wants to make such a game and what is the general message behind it. But anyway, let's just discuss these three things and let's get going. So here you see this is like just a translated version, Google translated, and it should do the job well. He says, in America there are many first-person shooter fans, FPS, and many of them claim that Death Stranding is a different game, which may be why they didn't put very high marks. I always try to create new things, and the disputes and discussions go well, but it must be said that the Italians or the French have a different sensitivity that allows them to appreciate this kind of very original products. They're not in video games but also in the cinema. What he's basically saying here is that the game is not just like your normal video game, but it's more like the story. So that makes it a little bit more like a movie, and the focus is on the story itself and not just on the gameplay. Which, well, I think I'm someone who likes the story in a video game, but also it's still a video game, so you need those good mechanics and good gameplay and variety, etc. And from what I have seen in other people's reviews, it seems that everyone is focusing that this game is like a walking simulator and it doesn't have a lot of things to do in it. I actually haven't played the game, but from the Tokyo Game Show footage that Kojima has shown, it's very likely to be the case. Death Stranding is not that kind of game in which you have a lot to do, and maybe the problem with it is that it's a kind of open world, so that's why people are not happy with it, or at least there are mixed reviews. So some people are saying that this is a genius game and some people are saying that it's a boring game, and it also boils down to one's choices and what one likes, and this is what Kojima has said here. My focus isn't on this exactly, my focus is also elsewhere. So there is this chunk here in which Kojima talks about what the story is about and what is the message he wants to convey. So I'm just going to read through it. He says, surely in Death Stranding, the story and your character carry on the solitary mission of connecting the world, but at some point you'll experience the feeling of not being alone anymore, because like you, there are many other people who are playing the same way. And then in the morning when you wake up, you will feel a little relief because you have discovered that there are many people like you around who are doing the same things, and you will feel a positive feeling. And that's what I felt from the gameplay that I have watched. The game focuses on you, like on this solitary mission, and that baby inside you is just like the human that you are. So this is just my understanding of the game. So that baby is just like your true self that you have to protect from maybe others, and those monsters are just like those social constraints, and those creatures are also like your fears from the outer world. And the communication in the game doesn't seem to be like that normal communication, but rather communication through chiral network, in which you find people more like memories of them that you have to connect. And those memories, they just feel like, for example, when you're talking to someone on the phone, like with a webcam or whatever the case may be, you're talking to them, they are real people, but you don't feel them, you see. So in this age where technology is really a big thing, you feel like you're using more social media and talking to people through social media than interacting with them in the real world. And that kind of makes you lonely, to be honest. And maybe that's what Kojima also is feeling and is trying to convey here. And now here is his opinion about what he wants to be and where he wants to be, about the kind of games that he wants to make. He says, it's a bit of a challenge between independence and blockbusters. I want to be in the middle and take the positive things of both these worlds. It happens that some very authorial games are sold maybe only in Japan and leave with a low budget. But when they try to propose themselves abroad to become international products, they lose their soul a little from the creative director. His imprint slowly disappears. The larger the project becomes, the more the creative face disappears. It also applies to Western games. And I can't agree more. It's totally true. So, for example, there are those games that are released in Japan, and then when they come to the West because of censorship, because of political correctness, those games just lose a lot. If you notice that there are a lot of Nintendo games, for example, that are kinda censored when they are released in the West because it's not, right, between quotes, to release them in the way they have been released in Japan. That's also because of some cultural boundaries or differences between countries. So what's right there in Japan is not necessarily right in the West, and vice versa. And when you change the game, just like Kojima says, you change what it essentially is. And sometimes you have to remove some parts of the game or some game mechanics in order to sell more, and that makes your game way more different than you made it in the first place. And then here he says, I am certainly interested in this type of activity and have received many offers of this kind, but above all I want to concentrate on continuing to create games that have something different. For me it is important to always invent something new, original. I believe this is my contribution and my place in the world. So this is about a question. So you see here there is this she. It's not correct here because the Italian language doesn't use pronouns and English uses pronouns almost all the time. So he says, you have left a large Japanese company to found an independent studio which you have created, or with which you have created Death Stranding. Is it more freedom or are the responsibilities greater? What do you think of the new consoles and the possibilities they offer? And that's what he replied. So basically he doesn't want, to work under a big company again. And I don't blame him, because working under a big company means that you have to fulfill some goals. You have to make a kind of games that will sell well, and you have to make compromises. And I commend him for making such a strange game, to say the least. Some people, didn't like it, but some people just thought that it was genius. And I think it's really good to see someone as big as Kojima try new things, not afraid of failure, and try to do or to make games that are not the norm in these days. For Kojima just to take that kind of risk and to accept that his game is not going to be accepted by the majority, and that his game is going to be kinda controversial as to what it exactly is, what message it conveys, and the kind of gameplay it has. Yeah, I think it's really something good. We really need more different games from the norm. We really need those big companies to make games that are not so popular, something that is totally different and creative. But unfortunately, big companies think about profit a lot. That's why they just use microtransactions in their games, and they are always afraid of making a game that may not appeal to the majority of people. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe for more of this kind of videos, and I will talk to you again soon. Have a good one.